I got too much clutter on this little desk, so I figure I want to make some drawers to go underneath it, and it'd be cool if one of the drawers could actually fit a keyboard in it. I started by cutting some pieces of the right width from 2x4 material, and then resawing that down the middle on the table saw to make thinner pieces to make a drawer side. I then used the thickness planer to trim all the pieces to the exact width, and after that I planed them, feeding lots of pieces in at once. That way I can avoid the snipe on the ends because it's all continuous feed. Then cutting 1/4" box joints into the end of the pieces with my screw advance box joint jig. I always have that one already set up for 1/4" joints, so it's pretty straightforward, especially because I just used my regular saw blade for that, so the setup is really minimal. And then gluing them together, I cut these fairly tight, so it's a bit hard to squeeze them together. But on the other hand, once they're together, the glue setup is so fast I really don't have to worry about clamping or anything like that. Although for the last two joints at once, that fast setup is a bit of a problem. And so to get these joints to fully close, I have to apply a little bit of heavy persuasion. These drawers are going to be side by side under the desk, and I worked out with how much room I've got left on the sides and the middle to make wooden drawer slides of this size with basically a hardwood piece that slides in another piece with a slot in it. These pieces will get this slot cut into them, and for between the drawers I've got wider pieces for slots on either side, and to cut those slots I've got a slot cutter on my router table that cuts a 1/4" slot, so it'll take a few passes. I made two little blocks with a notch cut out to help me position the slides that go on here. This is one of them, and it doesn't go all the way to the front. Doesn't need to, because the only time the front part is used is if the drawer is all the way closed, at which point it's got lots of support. The back is more critical, because if the drawer is most of the way open, that's where all the load goes. With the slides on the drawers and in the rails plus the H-shaped rail in the middle, my total width comes to about 91 centimeters, which is as much space as I've got underneath the desk, so this is cutting it very close. I think I need to mount that under the desk to see how that actually works out. Tight. I measure how much space I had on the front, but on the back I'm a few millimeters less than that. Oops! I think the easiest fix will be to just put a shim in here that moves the back further apart. I don't want to move them closer together on the front because the screw hole is right here and I can't move that. And here's my shim to make it wider on the back. Now that I know my drawers are going to fit, I can go back to working on them. Now for the drawer pulls on these things, I'm going to put these things on here like this, and I just need some kind of indent to grab it by, something like this on the router table. It's not entirely obvious, but I actually tilted this router a little bit because this is not a ball nose bit, it's actually a small cove bit with the guide bearing cut off, and by tilting it, the bottom of these grooves still ends up round instead of being flat like it would end up with this flat top bit. Now just throwing the keyboard in the drawer makes for terrible ergonomics, and even if I raise it up a little bit, it's still hard to get that space bar, plus it may hit the top when I close the drawer. So I cut a bevel into the front of the drawer and the handle, and that makes it easier to reach that space bar, especially if I tilt that keyboard back a little bit. Now I had the idea of getting fancy and making something that lifts that keyboard up a little bit like this when the drawer is pulled out, but that's just getting very complicated, and this kind of works. And also this way I don't have anything that gets in the way for getting it stuffed behind the keyboard. Now the way these drawers are, there's high risk of pulling them out by accident, and the handle isn't very good at catching them. So I made these little rocker stops to go in the back, and those will prevent the drawer from pulling all the way out. And also one for the keyboard drawer, and I made some blocks that hold the keyboard at just the right level so it fits and I can easily hit the space bar. I also made drawers for Harriet's desk, which is of the same design, and I think the anti-pullout feature is especially important for kids. And this desk is a temporary miracle of tidying up, but of course some of that stuff is just in the drawers now. And I made that drawer handle this shape because it hides nicely under the desk, and it also serves as a wrist rest with a keyboard. And it's not perfect, but mostly I just use the keyboard here for configuring the networking on Raspberry Pi computers, and after that I mostly just access it from my main PC.